Yo, have you heard of LinkedIn Learning? If you haven't, LinkedIn Learning is an American massive open online course provider. It provides video courses taught by industry experts in a variety of subjects. Now, why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this because Living Corporate is in partnership with LinkedIn Learning to provide diversity, equity, and inclusion courses. Listen, if you're trying to be a better ally, you want to understand better diversity, equity, inclusion strategies, or you just want to learn how to be a better leader, you got to check out the courses on LinkedIn Learning. So check it out. You can do it one of two ways. You can click the link in the show notes, or you go to LinkedIn Learning and you search Living Corporate. Again, link in the show notes, or go to LinkedIn Learning and search Living Corporate. I'll see you over there. Julie, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Zach, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing quite well. How about you?
I'm doing, you know what? I'm doing okay. You know, if people ask you that and you're like, doing great. It's like, are
No,
you?
tell the truth, man.
Right. You know what I mean?
Tell the truth. You had a baby who just had a birthday. That's a big deal.
That's right. Yeah. My daughter Emery, she turned 2. So it's been a journey watching her, just watching her grow and being so directly involved every day, right, in her development as her father. I know we talked a little bit off mic about the fact that you have kids, but they grown.
They've grown. Well, what does that mean these days?
Grown is
I write a
relative.
lot about that, actually. I have a 22-year-old son and a 20-year-old daughter. So yeah, different end of the spectrum from you, but that love and care and concern never changes. We don't have to hold their hands quite as much anymore. We need to just, stand next to them in case they need us. But increasingly, they don't need us, which is a beautiful thing, although it feels like a loss.
It feels like a loss. It's interesting you say that. I was, with the pandemic, at our daycare, we drop your child off at the desk, and then they walk back themselves.
Wow.
Okay, here we go. So at the daycare, because of the pandemic, you drop your child off at the desk, and then they learn to walk back to their respective class on their own.
Wow.
But then with as restriction as things have lifted, and mask mandates and things have changed, especially in Texas, the rules in terms of how we drop off our children has also changed. So now what we do is we walk our children back to their class, and then they go inside. And so I'm always thinking about, I didn't think about death a lot before I had a child. Uh,
Yeah.
and not in like a, whatever, not in like this, but I
Morbid
didn't,
way. Yeah.
right. But like, just in a like, oh wow, like one day my life will end.
Right.
So what happened was, so Julia, I walk Emery back there, and in the toddler room, it's popping in there, right? They're moving, they
Yeah.
got breakfast, they're having a grand old time, and you can hear them like, oh, Emery, and so Emery, because we're walking together, she's holding my hand, she looks at the door, and she looks up at me, and I said, okay, and I said, give me a hug. She gave me a hug. So give me a kiss, gave me a kiss, and then she went on, and I thought about, and then when she walked in, everybody was like, "Hi, Anne Marie," blah blah blah, and I thought about it like, damn, that's kind of like life. Like
Yeah.
one day, like she's going to continue on into her journey and her path, and there's going to be a place and point where I don't continue forward, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I cried. I
Of
cried.
course you did. Zach, first of all, I don't think you expected to tell this story when you and I sat down for this podcast. I'm not sure your listeners expected it either, but we're talking about the heart of parenting right now.
Mm,
And I will tell you, as a person who wrote a book, How to Raise an Adult on the Harm of Helicopter Parenting, which is the result of my years of being a university dean where I saw helicopter parents
mm.
holding their 2-year-old's hand, except their 2-year-old was 18. Okay. That's why I wrote that book. Like at some point they need to go off leash,
Right.
right? Why? Because we'll be dead one day. I literally have built that into my narrative as I've done the keynote for that book now for almost 7 years. I tell parents that our job as parents is to put ourselves out of a job right? To know in our bones that our children can fend without us. Why? Because we'll be dead one day. And we
Mhm.
don't want them at that point to discover for the first time, oh, it's on me to take
Right.
care of my body, my business, my bills, my belongings, right?
Mm,
It's not about you don't love your child forever. It's no, you love them by teaching them how to be in the world without you. The leash grows longer and longer every year. Your baby girl is 2, right? So you're still pretty tightly there, but one day she will be 8 and then 12 and 15. And you want to have this delicious confidence that I have given her the life experiences that allow her to leave us and go out there and use good judgment and make good choices. And when she falls, to pick herself back up, knowing she is always loved, knowing we are always there just in case, but knowing also that we believe that she can and is capable. And that's where overparenting really undermines, because the message of overparenting implicitly is you can't succeed. So I'll do it for you. We want to be doing the
mm.
opposite. Yes, you can. I'm here just in case, but you've got this.
It's just, and I think my daughter's so brave, right? So she'll try, right? I mean, another example, we just moved into our new home, and it's a 2-story house.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Julie. So, and it's been a blessing, right? Like
Yeah.
very much so. First world problems.
Yeah.
Moving is, ugh, but it's a blessing.
Yes.
Um, So anyway, have some stairs. Now, when I was a kid, um, my baby sister fell down the stairs. And it was
Oh,
very scary. Right now,
yeah.
she was okay. She honestly, it was just like kind of like tumble, tumble, tumble. She landed on her bottom and she was fine. But it still was
Scary.
traumatic to
Of course.
see.
Yeah.
So so now I try again, like to your point about not being a helicopter parent. I'm kind of like okay. And Emery sees the stairs and she just at 2 years old, she just takes off like and then she she doesn't ask for any help. She starts off kind of crawling, and then she reaches the wall and she just starts walking up the stairs. I was like, goodness gracious, right? So it's just the every day being reminded of like, wow, okay, yep, this is my baby, this is my daughter. I need
Mhm.
to take care of, protect her, and also there's a continuously growing capability of
Right.
her being able to function and do things on her own that just a week ago I didn't think she
She
could
couldn't
do.
do. Exactly. Remember when she
So
couldn't walk? Remember when
yeah.
she couldn't walk and we were waiting on that, and then she started and she fell and it was like, "Oh no, she's falling." But the point is, you fall and pull back up. That's how your little quads get stronger and your core muscles and your
Right.
sense of balance gets stronger. They only strengthen themselves by doing the stuff of life. Like we want to carry them with us all the time because then we know they're safe, but then they'll never be able to walk. Right? Wait till she starts
So,
riding a bike with,
oh,
oh
she
my goodness.
we got her a tricycle, and
I'm
she's
just
like,
saying, a tricycle,
yeah,
fantastic, but one day it'll be 2 wheels, which requires balance, and you're
it's
gonna wanna
true.
run behind her forever, daddy,
You're
and
right.
it's this beautiful, terrifying thing. I mean, doesn't that describe parenting? Beautiful and terrifying? Like, my heart
100%.
is on that bicycle, like, don't let me let go, but she'll develop that balance and go faster on the pedals, and you can't keep up, and you'll be back there, and she'll, at some point she'll realize you're not there and that she's fine.
And that she's
Ah,
fine,
so
and that she's fine.
beautiful.
It is a beautiful thing,
Mm,
and so anyway, I'm newer on the parenting journey. I'm only 2
yes.
years in, so and I can sense though your the first of all, I can hear the wisdom, and I sense um the care in which you communicate. I live in corporate. For those who don't know, because we have first time listeners all the time, right? Like
Of
we
course.
center and amplify Black and Brown folks at work, and
Right.
something as I think about the content, Julie, that you speak on. I think about your TED talk. Think about your other books, from writing memoir to Real American, and also to how your turn, how to be an adult. I so often I run into folks, I think I'm also folks. I'm part of this group that struggles with identity, um, and confidence and insecurity, being one of the onlys in a space, right? So I came up and was an HR manager at Target, um, and then was a HR specialist at an oil and gas company called Cameron, and then I was at Accenture and Capgemini and PwC, and now I'm at at an insights organization in tech. I'm a director there, so an executive there, um, and I'm often one of the onlys.
Right.
And it took I'm 32 years old. I turned 33 later this year, and I think about I've had to do a lot of grappling with, like, okay, my own identity, understanding my voice, my story, and then how to then engage in these majority white spaces. And I'm curious, like, when it comes to understanding your voice or finding your voice or kind of navigating through your insecurities, especially as a black or brown person, biracial person, one of again, anyone on the margins, right? So I'm curious to get your perspective on how to develop that, right? I think about these new I think about these this new generation of talent coming in, but I also think about established professionals in their 40s and 50s who are still trying to figure out who they are and also how to not be, dominated by their insecurities. Am I making sense at all?
100%. I'm just taking lots of notes and I'm like, yes, I'm so glad we're talking about this. So thank you for the opportunity. And it reminds me, I was just on a different podcast yesterday called The Former Lawyer, where I got to really delve into, because I am a former lawyer, I got to delve into some of the feelings I had as one of the onlys in my law school environment, in my law firm. And so this has been a week to tap into the energy of that and to summon some of those difficult memories. Look, let me establish for your listeners where I am in life. I have a lot of privileges, and I want to really name that because, of course, privilege informs what we see and can't see. And I'm just going to speak to my own journey because I don't want to presume it's like anyone else's. Although I will say I wrote a memoir, Real American, you've already mentioned it, about my experience as a Black and biracial person in white spaces. So being one of the onlys, whether as a kid, a college student, a law student, or a young professional. I'm now 54 and I want to name that because a lot of this stuff gets worked out over time, my friend. Okay.
Mm,
Like I see you 32, going to be 33 later. I remember that. I'm 20 years, 22 years down the road from you,
mm,
beckoning you like it gets better. Like they say
mm,
around queer kids and the Trevor Project, like it gets better. Like the older
mm,
you get, the more you get to choose your workplace, the more you get to choose your neighborhood, the more you get to choose the groups you'll be affiliated with and not. Whereas when you're coming up, you don't have all of that access to possibility. You're not yet that person. So it does get better
mm,
with time. But my journey was this: I had enough experiences in childhood and adolescence that made me feel less than. I was the only child of color in a high school of 1,200 people in Wisconsin. And can I swear on this podcast?
please.
Some shitty things happened. And I didn't tell anybody because when I was called the N word, somebody wrote the N word on my locker on my birthday when I turned 17 in my high school. I was so ashamed to be the N word person in my town. By that point, I didn't want to
Mm,
call further attention to my blackness and brownness by telling anybody that this happened. So I just cleaned it up and hid it from
mm,
myself and from everybody. But that shit festered in me. I didn't speak of it until I was 44. It happened when I was
wow.
17. Okay. But that began this descent into I'm going to perform the part of the black person who is perfectly fine, who is fine, you can't get to me, who is capable. I will be right and correct and on top of it all the time. Like I became this performative person seeking the approval of mainstream white society. So I became the black kid, afraid to speak up in class at Stanford as an undergrad because I didn't want to be black and wrong. So I was just going to be safe and not speak. Like I'm only going to speak if I can perform so beautifully that I will be above reproach. Like we're all triggered these days watching Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson going through what she's going through. Like we're all
Yes.
triggered by that because we haven't all been in front of the U.S. Senate, but we've all had a set of white folks questioning and undermining. Do you have the talent, the qualifications to be here? Right? We have all dealt with that. All right. So we've all had our own version of that. So I was trying my best in undergrad and law school and out in the world of corporate law, just trying to please the white male gaze, the white gaze, like let me be not the stereotype you are afraid of or you disdain. Let me demonstrate that I am a black person who is not that black person. What I came to realize when I was a senior administrator and I'd left law, I was now a dean at Stanford University, dean of freshman and undergraduate advising, looking after a number of things related to the undergraduate experience. I was working with an executive coach who was working with our whole team, my boss, The whole team was white except me. Everyone was older than me. Everyone had a PhD. All I had was a law degree. Didn't matter that it was from Harvard. It was still like not a good enough degree. So I'm the wrong color, the wrong age, the wrong degree. I'm on this team, and she's trying to help us all get work, work more effectively. And I begin to trust this coach. Her name's Mary Ellen. And the feedback she has for me is, you're too angry and too aggressive. And I laugh because, wow, what a stereotype, right? The Black woman is angry and aggressive. How
Mm,
original. And she was like, I'm not here to pander to their stereotype. I'm telling you, that's what they perceive, you know, about how you are. Is it working for you when, these
mm,
behaviors? Because I care about you, she said. And I had to admit, it's not working for me. I often am seen to be overreacting, oversensitive. And then I have to apologize. And we've lost sight of the problematic thing they did. So I said, I want to get a little bit more in charge of myself. And she said, all right, I'll teach you mindfulness so that you can notice the trigger when it happens, love yourself through it because it happened for a good reason. The feeling you have in response to that shit is valid, but then you get to be in charge of, do I speak or not? Do I speak now or not? What am I going to say? It just puts you more in charge so that you're not this reactive, like, bring the anger if you choose to bring the anger, bring the emotion if you choose to bring it. But if you decide, you know what, right now, I'm just going to sit here and listen, maybe say something later, maybe not, who knows? Like, let that be up to you. And that changed my life. And that was age 39. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. And so let me tell you the final piece. Sorry, it's
please.
a long story.
It's not long. Keep going.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. As I continued to work with her on why the triggers were there, why is it that I get triggered when they seem to diss me, when they think they don't like my idea or they discount it? Oh, all that stuff from childhood, all that stuff from the N word to the more microaggressive things. Okay. I came to admit to my coach, I hated being Black as a kid and young adult. I was afraid of Black people based on what the media had taught me. And I just wanted to be what white people valued. Okay. I said that, those three shameful things, I felt they were very shameful. Hated being Black, afraid of Black people, just want to be what white people. I said that to myself and to my coach through tears, the snottiest tears. And what was happening was I was coming to terms with what all those messages had done to me. And in naming it, I tamed it and tossed it out. And literally the next day, I had a different countenance. Literally the next day, I was this self loving Black person who could walk onto my campus and see all these Black faces that I had seen for years, students, faculty, staff. And it was like they had gotten a memo saying, smile at Julie today. It seemed like they had gotten a memo, Zach, because every single one was smiling at me. And
Wow.
I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized they didn't get no memo. I'm smiling at myself internally for maybe the first
Mm,
time since I was a tiny child who at age 4 discovered something's wrong with my Black daddy and with me. Maybe I'm
mm.
smiling at myself with self love for the first time, finally. And since I can now see myself in my magnificence as a Black woman, I can see, appreciate, and love all of the Black people around me.
Oh my gosh. Mm.
Appreciate it. I'll take it. It was hard work. It was hard emotional work, but what a relief. I lay that burden down.
It's interesting because I was talking about this, and I know that you're not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, so I'm not asking for your
Right.
for a diagnosis in that context. But it's interesting because I've been noticing, and coming from a corporate context, you talk about when I look around and I see like Black folks my age and older who the uber successful,
Mhm.
like the one or two who are in those really corporate spaces. Anytime I go to some job, right, like um there seems to be a pattern of, and I don't know because I'm not in their brains and I'm not in their hearts, but a certain level of self denial and rejection
Yeah.
of
Right.
Blackness,
Right.
and in their, again, it's when I say this, that's just what I observe. It's like almost like part of being successful in corporate context is putting on whiteness, and part of putting on whiteness is disparaging or muting or dismissing not just your own blackness,
Right.
but other black and brown people around you, right?
Right.
Um, and I'm curious, like the work that you talk about,
Mm.
that you went through,
Yeah.
how does that? I mean, what what direction or what application do you see that for black and brown professionals who are we're conditioned like in this context? You talked about the media and what it did to how it educated you about your own identity,
Right.
and how we're socially conditioned to be anti-black and
Right.
anti. So like, what's
Yeah.
the path to healing there?
Yeah. I could picture people as you described those one or two folks who are really, really senior and have made it, and how many of them seem to choose to leave their blackness at the door to the extent they even feel they fully inhabit it to start with. Um, have they already so distanced themselves from that heritage and experience that um, um, they don't connect to it? I don't know. Maybe they do pick it back up when they leave. They have learned, let's not blame that. Like they have been taught by the system that
Right.
to get to where you want to get in this career, you've got to play to the white audience and you've got to essentially be that person who they think, don't worry, you're not black, you're normal. That's what the white folks end up saying, like you're one of us, right? We've
Mhm.
promoted you because you seem like us. My best friend in high school was a white girl who said that to me. I don't think of you as black. I think of you as normal, she said, as she was watching Gone with the Wind and asking me, didn't I want to go live back then? I was like, I'm black. She's like, I would have been a slave. She said, no, no, no. If you weren't black, I said, I am black. She said, I don't think of you as black. I think of you as normal. And she thought it was a compliment. To her, it was a compliment, right? To me, it started to chip away at my soul. And I
Mhm.
think that's what's happened to these senior execs that you're describing. They have been brought into whiteness, told that they belong there, and they're doing their best to behave in the ways white folks behave.
Yeah.
In my experience, when I tell this story to a black audience, the number of people who will come up to me afterwards and say, thank you for telling my truth. I've never been
Mhm.
able to say out loud that I had been ashamed, or maybe still am ashamed of my brown skin, of
Mhm.
my ancestry. Like they're like, thank you for naming it, because now I don't feel alone and I
Mhm.
don't feel so ashamed, or maybe I don't feel ashamed because I can accept they did this to me. Right.
Mhm.
I didn't come into the world self loathing. It was heaped upon me. And they see a way forward in my story, which is do the psychological work, whether it's with a coach or a therapist. I realize these are privileged. This is a privilege to access those things. But if you can, my message is go do that work. What we all need to get to is this place of self love. Because here's the thing, Zach,
Mhm.
when we really do love this self in all of its whatever, we belong everywhere because we take that self
Mhm.
with us wherever we go. And then we can say, not from a place of self loathing, but from a place of self love, how do I want to walk into this corporation and behave so that I get my needs met? How do I want to show up in this group or this conversation so that I get my needs met? Not to please them, but to get my needs met. It might be the exact same outcome. It's like, I want a promotion. Do I want it because I want to prove to them how amazing I am? No, I want it because I want this for me and my family and what it means. Okay, so how am I going to behave in this moment to get my needs met? And maybe we do code switch, and that's fine. But don't you dare code switch because you're self loathing, right?
Right. Right.
Right? Right.
I just this has been a dope conversation. I mean, I guess I have a question as I think about like your own journey as an author, as a New York Times bestseller. Is like, do you feel like there's pressure to like just continue to pump out fire books like every other year? Like, what does that journey look like to write so much?
So I'm in my third career. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I'm 54. I've been a lawyer. I've been a university dean. I've been claiming the identity writer now for 10 years.
Mhm.
And I published 3 books in a span of 6 years, which is
Mhm.
fast. I don't feel external pressure. I am a self employed person who is the primary breadwinner for my family of 4. And so I have a lot of internally applied pressure to keep it going. I hustle. I enjoy the hustle. Working on my next book idea now. I enjoy being my own boss. Um, and I know I got to hunt it down and kill it in order to eat it, right? In a matter of like, as we do as entrepreneurs or as self-employed people, like I got to make the work happen. I don't have a biweekly paycheck to count on.
Mm,
And I like, and it's terrifying and it's also exhilarating. And that's the edge that I like to ride on because I intend to live this life, not just make it and coast. I'm not interested in making it and coasting and sitting back somewhere because I know
mm,
that that leads a person to wither.
mm.
I'm interested in relaxation and downtime for sure, and regeneration and rejuvenation, but I'm hungry still for what can I do next. And it's not a matter of, I mean, I do care about money, I do care about certain metrics, but what I really mean is I am here to live. And that means I'm going to learn and grow until I draw my very last breath. So, where are my rough edges today? Where are therefore more opportunities for me to lean in, understand what's going on? How can I learn so that I can level up, be better at what I'm doing, be better at helping humans? My job, ultimately, my purpose here in this life, as is the case for many of us, I know my calling is to help others on their path. So it's always in furtherance of what do I need to retool in myself so I can get better at helping others?
I love that. You talk about like living. You've talked about life. We started off talking about life. You have something called Julie's Pod, right?
Yeah.
And you co-created community where you talk about a lot of really incredible things, a regular newsletter, and folks can call in and they can participate. And it's interesting. I'm looking at a blog, a newsletter rather, entry that you had in March, early this month. Actually, you talked about this weekend. I didn't fail to work. I succeeded at being human. What what would you say? Like, I guess first um, to Black and brown folks who are cogs in the machine, but then also to the executive leaders of these institutions in a season where there is so much pressure to produce, right? Like we're in this late stage capitalist society where production, getting to it. I mean, even some of the ways we frame people over the past, I think, 5, 6 years have stopped talking about work life balance, and work life blend continues to be more and more on the forefront of our vocabulary. We're constantly seemingly under pressure to get up and do things, and to not be quote unquote productive is then graded as a failure. I'd love to just hear more about the newsletter, and this weekend I didn't fail to work and see to being human, and just the concept and advice you would give not only to the quote unquote worker, but to executive leaders, and how we can perhaps pivot for the sake of just equity and inclusion.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I wrote that piece, and thank you for mentioning it because I realized that for quite some time and too long, frankly, I've been working 6.5 days a week. As I've said, I'm my own boss. So who's to blame? Me. And when I complain to my boss, me, I'm working too hard. I hate what my calendar looks like this week. My boss looks at me in the mirror and says, "What are you going to do about it?" In other words, right? It's I've made these choices. Now I have to unmake these choices or make better choices. And I wrote that piece to say I took this weekend off. I went away with my partner, my beloved, 34 years together, met in college at 19 and 20, and we're still going strong. And you go strong by nourishing that relationship and taking time away for it. Just like self care is essential to get this life going where you want it to go, relationship care is necessary. And that was thinly veiled essay about my husband and I spent a lot of time in bed that weekend, and that was awesome. And we should do that if we have people in our lives, right? Anyway, so what I would say, it's a little bit off topic, but frankly, our relationships are the most important thing. There's research that shows that your longevity, whether you live a long, healthy life, is predicted by the quality of your relationships at 50, not your cholesterol level at 50. It's your relationship, not with everybody, but with a small number of ride or dies, right? And you don't just want to assume they'll be there, right? You have to caretake that. So I would say to the people who are in the machine, the Black and brown folks in the machine, you call them cogs, and the leaders, we now know we're in late stage capitalism. We know that to be human is to be taxed by capitalism. And we know that we will burn out our bodies and our minds and our souls if we don't center the fact that there are human beings doing the work. So to managers, I would say, don't you dare start a single meeting without a check-in that is real, where you say, look, we're all human beings. We're here to do this work, but let's spend an adequate amount of time at the front end just hearing how you're doing, what's going on, anything we need to know, right? Show your people that they are human beings. You will begin to create a sense of belonging on your team, potentially to the whole organization, and they will show up for you and do anything you need on the work side, because you have shown them and demonstrated time over time, I see you first and foremost as a human being. And I think that revolution is underway thanks to Gen Z and younger millennials who are like, we're not having it. We will not be hazed the way the Gen Xers, my gen, and the boomers were hazed. We're interrupting that cycle of trauma. And I am here with wild applause. For those who are still in it, who are younger, more junior, I would say, look, bottom line, your boss wants you to come to work and work. I'm trying to tell bosses you need to also value people as humans. What I want to tell the younger set is you're going to get ahead by working your tail off, doing really good work. And that includes anticipating, how can I be helpful? How can I be useful? How can I anticipate what my boss might need and get ahead of it and offer it? So they see, I'm here to support you in being successful, boss. That'll give your boss a sense of relief. Like, they're on my team. I get it. Okay. Hard work and intuition, what is needed. Self-care. So on those days when I need to go take a break, I need a breather, I need to go talk to somebody, like, you matter. Yes, bring that. And then these human connections, your character, not whether you're the fastest, bestest. Are you the kindest? Are you the person who talks to everybody, no matter whether levels below you or levels above you, or right? Your character is the greatest measure of your worth. And you will be rewarded for your good character. You will feel good about yourself because you have good character. And I think that's the way, when you want to work and grow at one thing, work on your character, work on being more patient, more gracious, more kind, on giving other people space and room. As a young person, hustle, work hard, but not so hard that you burn yourself out. The older you get, the more capital you carry and the more you're in charge of the choices you make. And as I've said, the spaces you work in and live in. So there is a little bit of the 20s, I think, that's about the 20s. That's like, you know what? You're not yet living the dream, but you're working hard and making a way for yourself so that pretty soon you can feel, you know what? I am kind of living the dream.
Julie, this has been a great conversation. I want to thank you for being a guest. Definitely consider you a friend of the show.
Thank you.
And this is not on camera, but your background is fire. Your hair looks great. And I just want to thank you
Thank you.
again. We look forward to having you
Mm.
back. Before we let you go, any parting words or shout outs?
Absolutely. First of all, gratitude to you, Zach. Gratitude to the listeners for being with us. Listener, I'm talking to you right now. If anything came up for you, if your heart beated a little bit faster, if you were nodding your head or what have you, pay attention. That's a clue from your spirit that we were talking about something that matters to you. Take that forward into the rest of your day, into your weekend and whatnot, and be curious about what was coming up for you as you listened and why. And finally, I will say my newest book, Your Turn, is for anyone struggling with this adult life. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it well? How do I make the most of it? And it's newly out in paperback. And if that resonates with anybody, please check it out. Your Turn, How to Be an Adult. I wrote this book for you.
Wonderful. Julie, we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, Zach.
Peace.
Living Corporate is a podcast by Living Corporate LLC. Our logo was designed by David Dawkins. Our theme music was produced by Ken Brown. Additional music production by Antoine Franklin for Musical Elevation. Post-production is handled by Jeremy Jackson. Got a topic suggestion? Email us at livingcorporatepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us online on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and living-corporate.com. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned.